Hey everybody, this is Coach Parker with CoachParker.org. How you doing? That's my playoff cigar. Yes, once again got to the playoffs with my youth football team, and very excited about that. I just took a look at some of my old teams and records and went through that, and I think this is almost my 18th or 20th playoff team. I can't really figure that out exactly, but just about every season I've made it to the playoffs, except I think one or two. So I've got some tips, playoff tips for you today to go through. Hopefully some of you guys also have your playoff cigar that you can light when you win that Super Bowl. That's what I like to do. So let's jump right into these tips. I've kind of put these together today. A lot of you may have seen these on my blog or in Facebook, but let's jump right in. So you've got to the playoffs, and or you're within a week of it, but you know you'll probably get there. So, you know, really the playoffs, it's like a new season. Most of us go through a playoff bracket where it's one and out, but you need to check with your league. But remember, doesn't matter what your record is now. Any given Sunday, if you lose, you're pretty much out of it at this point. So just make sure you remind your players that. And definitely, please remind your players that even though they beat teams in the regular season, teams come out a lot different in the playoffs. I don't know how many seasons, and this happened to me for 3 straight seasons where I've beaten teams twice during regular season and then lost basically on last 2-minute drives in the championship game prior to the Super Bowl. So in a conference championship. So make sure that you can get through all your teams and remind your players that this is a new season. It doesn't matter what anybody's record is. You want to play every game like it's the Super Bowl, because it might be your last. What I like to do is start looking at my playoff bracket. What does it look like? Do I have a bye? Who do I got in the first rounds? What are the records of the teams in my bracket that I'm going to face? Make sure you look at your tiebreakers. There was one season where actually they left us out of the playoffs, and because of a rule change they had made that season, and thank goodness for that. We actually made the playoffs based on a tiebreaker. So make sure you review that, because out of my 20 plus seasons coaching football, that has happened to me one time where the league made an error on a tiebreaker rule, and I found it, and we were actually allowed to get into the playoffs. So make sure you check all that and check with your league on the new rules. You want to check, who will possibly be your, final championship bowl opponent. Who's that going to be? Have you beat them before? Where is that? You're just going to get an understanding of what's going on. I mean, I had a phone call yesterday from a good friend of mine, coach, that I've coached with in the past. Just, we talked about, he had some issues on tiebreakers and where he was, and wanted to get an update from what I thought the rule was and who to call the league, and we talked through it. So it's a good idea, and he's been coaching longer than I have. He's 70 and has been coaching about 35 years. So take a look at your playoff bracket and what's going on there. Then you want to take a look at your practice schedule. I know we've got some sunlight issues coming up here in Texas, and they're going to get us on another field location with under lights so we can practice at night. Where that location is going to be. In Denver, they actually gave us, I think, one more practice day. Do you have more days to practice? Has your location changed? Are they going to give you under the field lights? And then, what's your practice goal, practice plan? What are you looking to do overall? Because you need to really get focused up. This is it. One loss and you're done. So make sure you get your plan all drawn out. Are there any rule changes for the playoffs? Some leagues, MPP rules are thrown out the door. You only play your best players in your playoff games. So check with that. How many practice days are there? Are there 2, 3, 4, 5? Or can you practice every day now? How many coaches because you had regular season? Can you add some sideline staff, some stat guys to the box? What can you do there? Little things like that. Is the tiebreaker different within the playoffs? How does that all work with tiebreakers? You want to get up to date on that and understand all that. And then, some league requests. They always request us for rosters when we're playing in playoff games because they want to call names of the players and such. So just read your emails from the league, update yourself on that, what's going on there. That's always really a good thing to do. And then I like to start having a couple of coaches meetings, although we usually have once a week anyway. But you want to have a coaches meeting. Who's going to do some scouting? Who's going to start reviewing the old tape and game film if you've got that? Who's going to go through stats and start reviewing that for trends and things? And who's going to come up with practice plans, both offense and defense? And just get yourself organized, because basically it's a new season now, and you want to make sure you're ready to go. And then you want to look at, because it is playoffs, any team health issues, or really school kind of stuff. Injuries. We've got a center out. We've got a little bang and bruises from this last game. We have a bye week, so that's going to be good. We should be good through with the injuries, with the players that we need. Any vacations coming up? November's coming. Does your playoffs move into the holiday season where you may lose somebody? That's happened to us one season where we lost a fullback because they had a Thanksgiving vacation and it was planned and they had to leave. So start thinking about all those things, schedules and stuff like that for your players and team health and where everybody's at with that. And don't forget school tests and report cards, and when they come out and if parents don't get good grades or they're going to hold the player out for the playoffs and all those little things. So get that all organized, get yourself up to date. I know I kind of geek out, but those are the kind of stuff that I like to look at. And so that's kind of the overview there. And then let's take a look at offense, some playoff tips here. What I like to do is really start narrowing down what were my best plays of the season. What did I score a lot of touchdowns on, make big gainers, and what are the best plays against the opponents that I'm going to face? What did I do in short yardage? What were long yardage plays? What were my best fourth down plays? What were my best pass plays? What were my best plays against this opponent that I've got in the first round? Why did they work against him? Was it a fluke? Or we actually blocked it well? Or we set up in a weird defense? What were the worst couple of plays and why did those get blown up? And you can pretty much find a strength from that. So I'm looking at that kind of stuff as the best plays for the season, best plays for the opponents, kind of narrowing, focusing that down. So when I run plays, I'm running those plays that I know that are going to get yards. You got to mix it up in there, but I really want to make sure that and I'm goofy because we'll have 100 plays with different formations in our system, and so I want to narrow it down to those top 24, along with maybe any tweaks and wrinkles that we add in that I know are going to work against this particular opponent. What you want to do also is in your scouting, you want to review how other teams have scored on your upcoming opponents and why those scores or long yardage runs worked. And I like to look at 10-plus yardage runs on team. If they're getting big gainers of 10 and more yards, how are those working? And then if you're looking at the film too, and you're seeing that the teams can just drive up the middle on them all day, well, you'd certainly want to make a note on that because that's a good way to beat that team in the playoffs. So take a look at all that. Do you want to add any new playoff wrinkles? I always like to do that. A new formation, maybe tweak a play here or there. Look at how my blocking may be adjusted for how their defense. What are those exploits that I can do based on scouting and what I think they're going to do? The thing also about scouting, you want to look at the last 3 games and really the games that you played against them. But also, if you know that coach from season or you know what his specialty is, make sure you add that. He may not have been running his specialty through the regular season just because he didn't have to. You get to the playoffs and he comes out and it's a whole nother thing. So you kind of want to have that in the back of your head. Hey, he could do this, they could do this. We need to be prepared for it. Don't go too overboard, but start thinking about those things. When you're looking at the opponent's defense, like I said, you want to scout those 3+ games plus your games. In any game they got blown out in, you definitely want to figure out what game was that and how did that happen. You want to see, how did they react to your offensive formations? You want to see their adjustments in movement, because you might find something that you're in a formation and they leave the 5-hole wide open. Well, adjust to that formation and run in the 5-hole. So those are the kind of things to look for. Are they making any blitz, stunts, and shifts? Where's this open hole? Just like I said, the 5-hole. Where are their minimum play players at? Their weaker players? Where are those guys? Are they at the corner, the DN, the A gaps, the free safety? Who are their best tacklers on the team? Who do you have to block? Are they weak in the middle? I love teams that are weak in the middle. We can just wear them out and go down the middle. Are they weak on the left or the right? And really, is the cornerback who's weak, outside linebacker who's weak, and who's their weakest defensive end for their contain guy? Because you want to find that, because you want to find where you can sweep to. And do they have any injuries? We've got a possible opposing opponent that we played in the last playoff game. He's got a thumb injury. He didn't really play very well, or as well as he does, because he was injured in the playoff game. And, is he going to be healthy and come back? And that's definitely going to change the dynamic in the playoffs if that particular running back comes back. So those are the kind of some of the offensive things that I'm looking for. I'm sure there's some more, and you can think of more. And if you do, please leave those in the comments below for everybody else to take a look at. So that's kind of my overview on offense for the playoffs. Now on defense, and I'm a defensive guy, I definitely scout. And most of these better teams that make it to the playoffs, I keep a spiral notebook for the season. And when I scout games, I draw up all the formation and plays, especially for the first half on most everybody, so I can see all their plays. I have that notebook, and I'll go back to that, watch the games over, and then I come up with what are the 3 or 4 or 5 best plays and how my defense can beat them, and I do that. So the other thing you want to look at is did they have a tough game against an opponent, and what did that particular defense do to that offense to slow them down? So you want to make sure you're looking for that. Are there any easy keys? I always look for the tight end first and the wing back or a wide receiver, If they're always doing that. Are they always running to the wide side? You'd be amazed in youth football how many offenses only run sweeps to the wide side. Does their offensive line shift and overload one side, which I call big? Did they go big to one side? Do you need to shift? When you shift a lot after 3 plays, do they run a counter? So those are the kind of things you want to look for, those little tendencies. Does the running back tilt his hip or foot when he knows he's getting the ball? I know there's one thing that running backs will do. When they're not getting the ball, their hands will be on their knees. When they're getting the ball, sometimes their hands are up. So those are some of the little things you can look for. What's he doing with his hands? The snap count, if you know their snap count, you can practice that in practice. On certain plays, did they throw an MPP player or a weak player at a wide receiver, and they're not running to that side? Have you picked up on that? So those are some easy keys that you want to find as you're going through scouting these guys. Or maybe you have it in your scouting notes and you had your spiral notebook like and you can just bring that back to the front. I also keep these 3x5 note cards. And I keep these in my backpack for each opponent. When I do the spiral notebook, I also make up these strength weaknesses cards and what I need to work on, and so for a particular opponent. And so I keep those together, and I go back through my note cards also to find what were those keys or whatever. So you want to be, the other thing, when you do all this stuff throughout the season, you want to stay organized and keep in a notebook, and in some places you can find it so you can get back to it. I guess that's a good way. You want to be organized when you're doing your scouting. because you will see most of these opponents again, especially the better ones. The other thing you want to do in your scouting, and when you're looking at it and you're going back through your notes, who are the best players, who are the best running backs, blockers, receivers. We call the best running back the rabbit, the best receiver the birdie. If they've got a good fullback, I'll call him the rhino. Where are those guys lined up? How is that all working? Who their best blockers are, who their weakest, who can you beat? Is it at guard, or is it tackles, at a tight end? Is it at center? Can you cause them to have major quarterback center issues? Those are all things you're kind of looking for. Best and weakest players kind of thing when you're going through your scouting, what you're looking for. I want to, for the playoffs, I want to go through for the season and really ID the best plays and formations. If you're just looking at your game, you may miss some of the best plays and formations they've used against others. And you need to find why they use those, how they use those, when they use those, so they don't bring those out in the playoffs against you, because they may have been hiding those. I know a lot of teams, on certain teams, won't use certain formations because they're saving that up. We did that one season. On easy teams, we were running this one offense, basically scrimmaging it. So when we got to the playoffs, we threw this in against the teams, and they had never really seen it before. So if they hadn't scouted any of the other games against weaker opponents, they'd have never seen this offense. And a lot of the first playoff team we hit did not see that and got popped. So, so just make sure you're looking at a lot of different games here. I want to ID the 5 best plays, their formations, what plays do they run to get 20 yards, 10 yards, 5 yards, short yardage plays, what plays do they score on, what is their PAT plays, and I totally missed this in the Super Bowl last season, is I knew this team ran this drag pattern with their tight end on a lot of their PAT plays for extra points, and I blitzed, and they ran that drag pattern. DN, outside linebacker, almost got the quarterback, but it ducked up there, and there was nobody back there with this guy, and he caught it for 2 points, so for 1 point. So that really hurt us there. Does the offense overload and pull, and how does that all work? Can you put some things in to take care of overloads and pulls? What is their, do they run wide, weak side, where they're running these plays from, what hash? This is all the stuff that I normally do in my scouting, but a lot of you guys might not do this for regular season. So I want to make sure you're doing this for the playoffs, because playoffs is, it's sudden death kind of stuff, so you need to win the game to get on. So make sure you're doing a lot of these things when you're doing your playoffs. What are their best pass plays and receiver? And got to know that. You just have to know that, because if it's a 4th and long or 3rd and long, they're probably pulling that pass play off. And if you've got your corners up playing run and they go over the top, that may cost you a lot. The other thing I like to know is, you really, and you should know this already, but are they a power team, a pass team, or a misdirection team? So you really got to understand that. I know I've got an opponent that I know he's a double wing coach from years ago. All this season he's been running a lot of spread with some spread out double wing concepts, but they're spread out. And I've actually been waiting for him to come into a double wing running with the spread and kind of mixing it up there. And I'm most worried about that coming into the Super Bowl with that particular opponent. So you just have to know, like I said, do you know the coach from past to present? What's he going to do on you? So those are some things for playoffs defensively. The other thing about defensive offense here before we move to special teams is in playoffs, I don't like to hit as much. I like the thud, which is you just wrap up and hit, but don't take anybody to the ground. I really don't want anybody hurt during this playoff season. I've seen it too many times before. People get hurt practicing at full boat during a playoffs weeks. So be careful of that if you're doing that. I know some of the younger ages, maybe 8 and under, it's not going to matter, but I'm coaching a senior team this year, and we've had a lot of injuries in practice, and we're getting a lot of kids beat up. So I want to minimize any risk to injury right now. So in special teams, you can't forget about special teams in the playoffs. A lot of coaches do that in the regular season. It costs them. So make sure your special teams are top notch during the playoffs, because you're going to meet the better teams in the playoff brackets. These are probably more experienced coaches. They know what they're doing, and they're definitely like myself. We're focused on special teams. So special teams and kick return, you want to know, where do they like to kick? Do they kick deep, short, long? To which sideline? To the middle? What do they like to do? So you could set up your kick return team to meet that. Are they an onside team? If they are, and they do a lot of that, who are their top 2 or 3 gunners that come down to get the ball? Make sure you're blocking those guys. If they're not having gunners, just on regular kick return, make sure your guys know who they need to be blocking. Are these guys doing anything unique on a kickoff for your kick return team? Like, do they have 2 kickers and fake one guy, kick to the other side? Do they do a high, like, field goal kick, kind of mortar, and it mortars down on the second line? Should you could be calling a fair catch on that? Do their gunners blast the front line guys so the next guy can get it? So make sure your front line goes, no, he's going to take a big hit. Do they have a really good end-over-end kicker? Make sure you got taller players in those particular areas where they do that. Are they always kicking to their sideline, and do they always do that? Is there a coach on the sideline that is the target that the kicker's kicking to? So those are some things you try to look for in the film or in your actual on-game scouting that you should be looking for your kick return team, to look at how their kickoff is doing. When we kick off, we're looking for who's their weak players on the front and second line. Where are their top 3 running backs? I don't want to be kicking to them. And do they run reverses? And where should my gunners be aligned to get my best kick off so I get those tackles? So definitely be working on that. If they do kick extra points, that's the first thing. Do they kick? Do they have a good kicker? You need to teach them how to defend the kick and what you can do there. And look at your rules within your league on how you line up at center and how that all works. And then the other thing, do they PAT kick, which is what I used to do in Arvada, we learned line up for PAT kicks, and half the time we would run fakes out of it. So are they doing that to set you up for fakes? So how does that all work? On your punt, we kick out of bounds. We do a rugby kick kind of thing. What are you doing on your punt? I've been to so many games of my 2 sons that played high school football. Punters, I guess, aren't taught anymore not to kick down the middle of the field, because they still kick down the middle of the field. But please, coaches, I was a second string punter and we had a good punt coach. You want to kick the ball toward the sideline out of bounds so that they can't return the punt, especially in youth football, because that is a very risky play. On your punt return, you want to know, do they punt? And when do they punt? So you can make sure you're calling that. Do they run a lot of fake punts? What's going on there? That can definitely happen. Which direction do they normally punt? We always pretty much punt to one direction unless I call something differently. Do they have a good punter? Does he kick deep? If they do you need to put 2 people back there. Do they kick it short? Do they take a long time to punt? Make sure on your punt return, if you're doing a punt block, to go through a drill, which I do, where I pretend I'm kicking the ball and I make sure my guys come through and they know not to hit my leg, because you don't need to get in a playoff game. They're punting and your guy runs right into the punter. So you need to make sure you tell them that. You also need to tell them on the punt, if you're not wanting any of your guys to touch the ball to get away. We lost a playoff game because one of our rookie corners got excited and tried to catch the punt when he knew he's having his best game that game, actually, and I don't fault the boy at this point. But, he lined up to catch the punt, and he dropped it, and they got it and went down and actually scored on that play after he dropped it. So make sure these little things around special teams that you might have been blowing off during regular season because you thought you probably didn't need to have any of this, which hopefully you have been focused on it. But if you haven't, or you haven't focused on enough, look, you're going to be meeting the better teams. Those guys focus on it like we do, so you better make sure you're ready to play special teams and know what you're doing there. So that's some stuff on my youth football playoff tips. That was a long video here. It's almost 25 minutes or so, but hopefully you gained something out of that. If you did, please give me a thumbs up below. If you didn't, or you have questions or comments and you want to add to it or say you didn't like it, please make a comment. I'll try to answer and update anything that I can from there. Definitely would love to hear your comments. You know, a lot of guys make comments, have started emailing me now, and I help them with some of their questions. So hit me up anytime. Feel free. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video and you'd like to see more videos from me, please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to bring 1 to 2 free youth football coaching videos to YouTube each week. If you've got a coach that you'd like to share this to, please do so. If you have enjoyed all my videos and you'd like to support me to bring more free content to YouTube for youth football coaching, please shop my store. I get a percentage of sales from that. I also have 2 books out right now, links in below. I've got an offensive playbook out and my defensive playbook out. Both are selling right now, are doing very well, getting a lot of great feedback from that. I know it's at the end of the season, but hey, champions train in the off season, so start training and become a champion if you need some extra oomph there. Yeah, and if you would like just to donate a couple of bucks, man, that'd be great. Any little bit helps. I know when I do get a donation, I get really excited and usually make another video. And hey, anybody that does buy my books or donates, or I definitely, if you have a video request, I definitely try to get those done for you. So hit me up for that. But again, hey, this is Coach Parker with CoachParker.org. Hope you guys are in the playoffs like we are, and you got your playoff cigar. Haha. You light it up at the Super Bowl. If you didn't, we'll get ready for next year. But remember to play for fun, and winning is funner. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.